Hello, and welcome to the third edition of Science, Metaphysics, and the Concept of a Computer Simulation. In the first two volumes, I showed that it is possible to create 7 billion plus individual players with the use of energies, information coming from the planets. It was shown that it took 4 variables to create a cycle. These are the elements: fire, air, water, and earth. The sine curve is a process that alternating energy takes. The CSP has trouble understanding AC current, and that explains why there hasn't been any change in the process since Tesla. The reasons? The CSP worships mathematics, and this tool is incapable of solving for 4 variables. Eric Dollard is one of the few individuals to reproduce Tesla's experiments and is negative regarding what is taught in the university. He predicts that with all the microwave radiations that there will be interferences causing serious problems within the grid. He likens our situation regarding electricity to a freight train traveling at high speeds with nobody at the controls. I mentioned that to understand the mechanism on how astrology works, it requires knowledge of planets, signs, houses, and angular relationships based on the numbers 1 through 4. There are 12 folders on the hard drive that contains all possible interactions by the players. The signs, 1 through 12, modulate both the houses and the planets. The sun is the commander at the control center. The sun makes the choice which drama to pursue to structure time. Each of the planets use whatever device to seduce the commander so as to give them airtime. The energy from Mercury is a constant batter. I know what it is. It's a ... And just like Quicksilver, it can coat input from the others. The energy from the moon triggers neurons, activating hormones, resulting in a feeling. The body quickly becomes addicted to these chemicals. The energy of Venus is yin in nature. This is why she needs arrows to puncture the victim with an arrow so as to recognize her. Venus relies on perfume along with glamour to attract. There are many levels of relationships available to the players. They range between very casual to deep intimacy. The challenge for a player is choosing the right formula. The perfume's potency must be strong enough to attract, but not overwhelming, yielding the opposite effect. There is another issue associated with Venus's vibrations. It deals with turning off attraction and initiating repulsion. Some players, as part of their karma, must learn this force the hard way. Many players have all kinds of problems dealing with the planetary energy from Mars. When activated, it demands center stage. It takes a lot of power to control it. The players have 3 choices on what to do when anger is the choice of the day. Some unleash it with hell's fury. Now, expression of anger is always okay. It's all how it is delivered. It is the nature of the players dealing with Mars to think that right is might. The other is eating the anger. Use all your energy holding onto a mask that hides the anger. This is self-destructive and leads to disease. The third leads to projection, as described previously. It is the power to activate angers in others. There is a lot of karma regarding what specifically to desire. Every desire requires energy to initiate the outcome. Some players have karma dealing with self-hatred so they choose desires requiring energy beyond their capabilities. Some only choose simple ones, so they don't have to deal with failure. They become the unachievers. The vibration emerging from Jupiter has a lifting effect on the players. A helicopter comes into the scene that hovers over the individual. A rope descends, and he is lifted to the lofts. From the heights, she can see the forest at the expense of the trees. Flying high with the gods is very intoxicating, and they must deal with resistance to returning down and be with just mere mortals. Saturn is needed to balance any of the above energies. As we will see, this planetary energy vibrations can reverse their energy, bringing on destruction and the end cycle. We'll get into that in scripts. The goal of Saturn is to bring perfection to the Earth. The player chooses reality of a command where the buck stops with them. In many cases, denying others, likened to a cop. I and the Father are one is a common slogan. There is an addiction to saying no. The lust for power is a dangerous addiction because it can affect so many other players. The outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, do not relate directly with the conscious side of the players. Instead, they operate on the light going into the projector. Neptune manipulates the hologram, as we get into in future sessions. Now let's turn our attention to the relations that planets can have with each other. The most important relationships, called aspects, are the conjunction, division by 1, 0 degrees apart; the opposition, division by 2, 180 degrees; the trine, division by 3, 120 degrees; and finally the square, division by 4, 90 degrees. An example of the conjunction is the new moon. There are compatible and incompatible conjunctions. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are examples of compatible ones. These give greater light than the sum of the two. It usually dominates the personality. The problem is to separate the two. This is particularly true for Sun-Mercury conjunctions. The new moon, or Mars-Venus, and Saturn conjunctions are examples of incompatible ones. They have to play out in time. An example, each month starts with the solar half, and some conflict occurs at the full moon. So one will dominate the other, but there will be a shift in time. The opposition is the full moon, where each planet are equal in strength. There will be a struggle in surrendering. For incompatible planets, it would emphasize their difference and dominate the personality. For compatible planets, there would be differences between them, leading to conflict. Skipping to the square in division by 4, there is a conflict between unequals, such as parent-child or boss-employee. Depending on the planets, it can be a crisis in growth, first quarter square, or a crisis in consciousness, third quarter square. These squares are triggers for when a script goes from yang to yin or vice versa. Again, 90-degree angle means that each planet acts independent from each other. Two parts of you is being pulled in two different directions. In the wheel, fire will always be opposed by air, while water will oppose earth, forming a line perpendicular to the fire-air line. There is a hierarchy between the four elements, as shown with the arrows. Water has power over fire by putting it out. Fire has power over earth by inflaming it. Earth has power over air by creating barriers to enclose it. Finally, air has power over water by blowing it away from the collective. Finally, we have division by 3 in the trine. We have the equilateral triangle with a 120-degree angle. There is a flow in time. The initiation, cardinal in astrology, the propagation in polymer chemistry, fixed in astrology, and then the termination and mutable. For each of the 4 elements, there are 3 stages in time. So 3 times 4, 12 signs. Using the fire signs, we set and placed in the wheel. There are 4 signs, 130 degrees times 4, 120 degrees apart. In all cases, the cardinal sign will have the fixed, Leo, in this case, to the right, and mutable, Sagittarius, to the left. In this chart, we see the flow of energy. Starting with Aries, cardinal fire, it's labeled plus, energy is flowing out into the universe. This is repeated 4 times. Each element extending 90 degrees from each other. Next, we have the fixed signs labeled minus. These are the power signs that draw the universe into their arena. Each has a perfume to draw others in. These signs are all square to each other. Finally, we have the 4 mutable signs. The jagged line indicates going back and forth to eventually come to an equilibrium or synthesis. These signs should be neutral, but there is a tendency to go along with the polarity of the element. Plus for fire, air, Sagittarius, Gemini, and negative for earth, water, Virgo, and Pisces. Each sign will have the trine to its 5th sign. This is the gift that comes with the sign. I call it the one-trick pony. However, the 4th house, the 4th sign, contains independent energy and can at any time say no, creating conflict. The correct balance of yes-no will define the delta H, or energy available for a task. Let's look at the 4 grand trines of the elements, starting with fire. It starts at 1, fire, cardinal, and called Aries, ruled by Mars. This is the spark of light that brings the end to night. It requires that fuel, earth, be the right kindling size. It requires the right amount of air to cause ignition, and there could be no water. The scientist turns this plasma in the glow mode. If the right conditions are met, then the plasma proceeds to the arc mode, the bonfire called Leo. As long as there is fuel, the bonfire is unstoppable. The size of the fuel is no longer of concern. Even water will have little effect, and air blows it to fresh fuel, spreading the fire. The fuel starts to run out, fire enters the earth and becomes an ember. Air can blow the ember to new areas, similar to a bowman shooting arrows in all possible directions, so as to continue the fire. This is 9, Sagittarius, and ruled by Jupiter. This is plasma in the dark mode. These are Birkeland currents, leading fire to our sun, rendered invisible by the double layer, likened to an ember or the mask that Jupiter wears so as to be around mortals. The next grand trine is air, and its function is to balance the fire. It starts at cardinal Libra 7 and ruled by Venus. This assigns forwards a mirror feeding the light back to the source of fire, another player in the game. The process of making a laser of monochromatic light is shining it back and forth through a mirror. The fixed sign trine to Libra is Aquarius, 11, ruled by Uranus and co-ruler by Saturn. The gift to Libra is the ability to disappear into the void, demanding others to fill it. This is the energy that brings on an event horizon, all or nothing. In this process, time may be modulated so the players will become entrained. Aquarius is the realm of the event horizon, where there is a passage from the white hole to the black hole and vice versa. So whatever the image was in Libra, now it's reversed. It becomes a negative. These are the famous mixed messages that Aquarians have. In Gemini, we had the synthesis, resulting in a gain in consciousness. Air signs create a cycle that leads to consciousness. We turn now to the trine, 90 degrees, starting with water signs, and cardinal, Cancer, 4, and the moon. Water, like air, is feminine in behavior. She serves two masters. In Cancer, she extends a desire to serve the unconscious, the child. She also serves a collective god, the programmer in disguise. There is great power in nurturing the unconscious. They easily get addicted to the mother, Scorpio, 8, Pluto, and Mars. She must learn to use her power as a means of raising the consciousness, but at the proper time, freeing the child. Pisces, Neptune, Jupiter, and 12. So like air, these feminine signs take part in a cycle of raising consciousness in someone outside of self. Finally, the earth signs, starting with Cardinal, Capricorn, Saturn, and 10. This is the birth of new consciousness, the holy atom, a source of fire within a seed waiting for when the time is right to start germinating. Earth element is likened to a factory with the sole purpose of reproducing the holy atom. In Taurus, Venus, and 2, the manufactured product is given a Venus paint job so that others will seek it out. Virgo, Mercury, and 6 deals with bringing perfection to the earth by purification, sorting out the rest. Earth is the opposite than water, where opposites attract. Here, opposites are squeezed out of the organism. So the earth and fire signs have in their cycles the aim of raising the consciousness of the self. I am in the process of defining the scripts each sign has, and in this session the numbers 3 and 4 were shown and how they affect the movements within these scripts. In our next session, the effects of outer planets are introduced. Time cycles are maintained by Saturn, and I showed how it is expressed. I hope you are still enjoying these presentations. If so, give a like, comment, and subscribe, and tell a friend. Until then, I bid you good day.